You know, my son Caleb convinced us to buy the RV. His logic was irresistible. See, he would sleep on the bed above the cab of the truck so that I wouldn't have trouble climbing up and I wouldn't fall out in case I took a sleepwalk. He would be the one to learn to use the giant icky hose that lived in the back bumper in order to hook the RV up to the dump station. He would wear the latex gloves in the glove box when he hooked it up and turned the switch to let all the poop fall out. He would also be the one to make sure all the windows and the top hatches were closed so that nothing flew away. He would latch the cupboards and turn the lock on the refrigerator door to on so that our mustard didn't make a giant mobile kitchen mess. Really. This purchase would be 100% worry-free for me. My precious 6-year-old son assured me of this. My only job, my one and only job, was to buy the RV. I mean, surely I could do this one simple little thing, he said as he danced around on the sidewalk, still wearing his purple glove from the dump station lesson. Now, I gotta tell you, my girlfriend and I were already pretty certain we would buy the RV, and that's why we took him along on this second look, you know, just to make sure he was into it. I really did not ever want to touch that dump hose, so it was in my best interest to convince him that I needed convincing. And boy, was he into it. Way into it. You know, during our first year of RV ownership, we took the quintessential American family summer vacation, the Grand Canyon, and then across the Midwest to visit my girlfriend's family. We were gone about a month, and when we returned, I spent 2 months waiting by the mailbox for news that my canonization had come through for the miracle of cooking everything over hot coals for an entire month. I mean, there may have been a stove in that RV, but it was hot as Hades, and we didn't have air conditioning, so every time we'd stop, I would sling out the charcoal, get the fire going. I had one skillet, and my campfire repertoire included veggie burgers and pancakes. Over and over and over again. Okay, a few salads as well. You know, after a few months with no news of my sainthood, I decided, yeah, okay, I really do want to take another trip. During the next 2 years, we took a number of short trips up the California coast, one trip down to Mexico. Okay, we also joined a nudist camp to store the RV, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, that's another part of the stories, really. The three of us traveled together, and with Caleb's dad, and with our other close family friend, who is something of a fourth parent to Caleb. The RV can sleep 3 comfortably, 4 if Caleb sleeps with his dad or me, or even 5 with a sleeping bag in the center aisleway. You know, sometimes our family seems exceedingly normal, anachronistic really, in our desire for our son to go camping and hiking and learn to work an RV dump station, in our stalwart insistence that he learn to swim, to play a sport, to take music lessons and go roller skating. You know, he told me recently that we didn't take him to as many sporting events as many of his friends seem to have attended, but he saw a hell of a lot more dance and theater performances. You know, if I did anything right, he also watched a little less TV than most as well. But then to some, because our family is broader than 2 parents and the genders vary, we are total freaks. I mean, because we are queer, we are, to be redundant, odd. And not only do the genders vary, so do the gender roles. One time, my son's father came over when our little boy was out in the garage doing woodworking with my girlfriend. As we looked on, he quipped, hand on hip, "My God, I'm glad you're dating somebody who can teach our son to be butch." And indeed, our son is now a competent handyman, in addition to a competent dessert maker, thanks to his cake decorator father. You know, some people worry that a jumbled up family will be confusing to a child, damaging even. Some go so far as to say that families like mine will damage our very culture. Everything will be akimbo, and moral compasses will spin wildly, leaving children crying in the streets. But you know, that's just not how it is. I mean, I know because I have parented under these unique circumstances. And I think most families are unique somehow. It's just that some of them try to hide it. And perhaps that's more damaging to children than simply knowing what's what and who loves them and defining the terms as needed. On one of those RV trips up this way to see the monarch butterflies resting in Monterey before they flew south to Mexico, my son's father, Richard, and my girlfriend, Katie, were along on that trip with Caleb and me. Caleb was about 7 years old. As Richard drove, the three of us sat at the back table, Katie reading her novel, Caleb and I having light conversation. After a thoughtful moment of silence, Caleb looked at me and said, "Okay, if you're my mom and Katie is your girlfriend and Dad's dad and Dad is your husband, then who is Katie to Dad?" He wasn't distressed about it. He was just trying to get all the titles right. I was still trying to sort out the question when Katie looked up from her novel and calmly said, "Oh, that makes him my step-spouse." "Oh," said Caleb with a look of satisfaction, as though that obvious detail had simply escaped him. And then Katie went back to her book. Soon after, we stopped at a gas station, because those RVs really drink it down. I relayed this story to Richard, who chuckled and said, "Yeah, that makes sense." And then we had a small argument with our son about why we wouldn't buy candy at the mini mart. He didn't get the M&Ms he wanted, but somehow he ended up with a lollipop. His dad is such a chump that way. We got back in the RV with me in the driver's seat, and then the three of them started a game of cards. The monarch butterflies were beautiful that weekend, lining the trees and becoming a bright orange sunburst as they took flight. We attended a class and went on a hike offered by the Natural History Museum. Those butterfly migration patterns are amazing and complex, but somehow they figure it all out. And so do we. We figure it out like it's the most natural thing there is.